It's not anti-immigration. I've never actually commented about anti-immigration. I've commented about mass migration.
Since the comment that you made, have the organisation moved on smoothly, or?
No, so we've never had any problems with regards to the organisation. Obviously, I run Shalom House, which is a drug and alcohol rehabilitation centre for men, women and children, and we have around 160 residents. But also, outside of that, I do have a life, and just what's happening within Australia at the moment, it does concern me. So for the last 14, 15 years, I've focused on building Shalom Hut to what it is today. It's 150% self-funded. We don't apply for grants and all that, and the whole program itself is designed about residents taking responsibility for their actions. But what I'm seeing over the last probably 3 years with the house properties doubling in price, especially over the last 3 years, just the influx of people coming into Australia, not following the immigration process that we have. I'm all for immigration. I actually have 4 sponsored children or foster children I've had for the last 20 years. Recently tried to bring my foster son, Berakit from Ethiopia. He's qualified as a chemical engineer, so I went through the legit process to bring him over here for a bit of a holiday so he could experience what Australia was like. But the concern for me is just mass migration. When you're hearing figures of 400,000 or 500,000 people per year, and then you go to home opens with your son, so he wants to buy a house, and you look at the house prices, then you look at 150 people lined up to make an offer on the house, or even go and look at a house for rent. The average rent nowadays is now 750 plus a week. For a lot of the residents, when they finish our program, they try to get a rental, but when the rental cost is equivalent to what they earn each week, how can a single mum with kids or a single fella afford the rent and the electricity and the water and the food and everything else comes with it on a one income? It's virtually impossible. But I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't actually been out there and looking, and so I've done a lot of research in the last few years, and just it concerns me the fact that we're having mass migration. I'm all for immigration. I love the fact that we're a multicultural country. I have a lot of staff members from all different countries and also residents within Shalom, but it's unchecked mass migration at a scale of 400,000 to 500,000 people per year.
I have to ask you this question, and this question is nothing personal.
Yeah, that's fine.
I know you long enough, but I want to ask you this. Some people may see the comments that you made on your social media posts back then, the one that you retracted. Some people might think that you're racist. Now, what do you have to say about that?
And what was the comment that I retracted?
On the one that you apologised for the...
Okay, so I made an apology about, because I run Shalom and I also do my own thing, because I run Shalom, people said, well, you shouldn't really be posting on the Shalom platform because Shalom is about drug addiction and alcohol. But Shalom is about rehabilitation, reintegration, resocialisation. So a lot of our residents come from a place where they've never had a voice. They don't comment on public affairs. They don't express how they feel in the way that we would normally express how they feel. They would do it with violence or drugs. Or so here in Shalom, we don't just focus on rehabilitation, we also focus on reintegration and resocialisation, which also has a strong component of how to express how you feel without pushing your opinion down somebody else's throat. So what's real for you is real for me. For those who are against mass migration, well, I agree, I'm against mass migration. For those who are against immigration, well, I disagree because I am for immigration. And I think that a lot of people can take a comment based upon the one line, but when you look at it in context, they would look at it differently.
The negative comments and of course the negative viewpoints that has generated through that post, do you regret that to a certain extent?
No, because I didn't get any negative comments and I didn't get any negative feedback. I got probably 500-600 positives and probably 1 or 2 negatives. And the only reason that I retract that post is that we have a lot of people who support Shalom and the work that we do here at Shalom. And I want to respect those who support Shalom. But we had a couple of people who would support us, not financially, but were real good, strong supporters of us. And they took the my post out of context, saying that I'm against immigration, but I'm not against immigration. I make no apologies for the post that I put out. But the offence was that Shalom House is Shalom House's page. And that I shouldn't be commenting why I'm CEO of Shalom. So fair call. I didn't want to lose the supporter. I didn't want to upset the supporter, so I apologised. But I also said to my board that if I'm going to be running in my role as CEO, as I mentioned before, part of that is expressing how I feel and being free to make my opinion, or share my opinion based upon what's unfolding around us. And so I apologise for sharing on the Shalom platform, and I said to my board, well, if I can't speak up as an everyday Australian on matters that concern me and other issues, and if me in my role in Shalom is going to put a muzzle on me, then I can no longer operate effectively as CEO of Shalom House. And so therefore, I give my resignation. If you would like me to continue on in my role at Shalom House as CEO and founder and continue the work that I'm doing, then I would like the freedom to be able to speak about issues that concern me without having a muzzle on me. I don't think it's okay that because I run an organisation that I don't have a voice.
Has the muzzle been put on you in your view?
No, the muzzle on my board's been exceptionally great, always supported me. But
So why did you think that the muzzle has been put on you to a certain extent?
it was suggested a couple of times because of the comments that I make about mass migration and even myself attending the rally, that I would be pushing my views on residents within Shalom, which isn't the case at all, because we don't actually talk about those sorts of issues often at Shalom, but we do talk about issues that come up that could be a concern that changes the shape of our country, which the rentals was one, and so we've got to work in, well, what do we think is the cause of not having rentals, and why is it the high prices are up? My understanding of mass migration has gone from 180,000 check migration to nearly 460,000 mass migration, and even if us as Australians don't understand the framework around mass migration, then I think that the government, instead of just doing the mass migration, they should educate Australians as to why it is that we're bringing such large numbers of people when we have no housing, when we have hospitals are ramped up, when schools are bursting at the seams, when homelessness is on the street. There's so many issues that are happening that's affecting the Australia that we love, and then bringing 500,000 people in on top of the issues that we have, it just doesn't logically make any sense.
May I ask you further deeply into the matter, why did you pick January 2026?
January 2026.
That's right. So let's say when you say that you will resign, if you do resign.
No, it was the 1st of January, so I'll see you at the end of the year. And so it was actually, I'll do the next 3 months and make sure that I have somebody else to take my role. So I gave them basically 3 months notice to the 1st of January.
Okay, so
not January 26th.
But that's not happening right now.
No,
because you're continuing.
Yeah, my board has had come to an agreement. They come into a group that I'm more than entitled to share my views and my opinion on my platform. So I have my own social media page, Peter Lyndon-James page, and so I'm free to share my views and my opinions, but my views and my opinions don't necessarily reflect that of the organisation of Shalom House.
And you have to, and you will declare that every time that when you speak on that page that this is your views, got nothing to do with Shalom.
It's pretty clear, yeah. Okay. It's pretty clear. It's my views and not the views of Shalom.
This is just what I've heard, and some people within the community believe that why pick January? You've already explained that.
1st of January.
1st of January. But you do not. Do you have any ambition to go into politics, or none? If you work with
none at all. I have an ambition to make a difference. I did run for state of Western Australia about 6-7 years back, and I spent a lot of money on the campaign myself, and that's when Labor just got back in. So
you got no political ambition at all?
I just want to make a difference. Yeah.
So will you run for politics? In your
I don't. I just focus on today. I just take one day at a time. I don't look too far ahead. I just get up one day at a time and make decisions based upon what unfolds in the day.
Moving forward, what's going to happen by the end of the year in your view?
Moving forward, so we have another rally on the Sunday the 29th. Sunday the 19th of September. So I plan to be at that and speak at the next rally. And I just plan to keep doing what I'm doing. And Shalom's growing exponentially. We've got a great setup here now, but I just plan to do what I can to speak up and to make a difference. What I see happening in Australia today really concerns me, not just with the net zero, not just with the mass immigration, the hospitals ramping. It just concerns me that Australians, we just don't have a voice, and things are getting implemented without our say. And you can't help but worry when you see what's happening in the United Kingdom, what's happening in America, what's happening in other countries, that we're basically the furthest from most other countries, and now everything that's happening in other countries is now starting to unfold here. And I think that Australia, or Australians, we have an opportunity to not head that far down that road, that we need to put the brakes on and try to educate Australia and Australians about the decisions that we make at a government level.
Okay, so you'll be going to the rally, but will people in Shalom House go to the rally as well? Or
If they choose to of their own accord.
it's up to them. So it's up to them.
Yeah, it's always up to the residents. If they don't want to go, they don't go. So, I mean, in the last rally, residents on their home leave of their own accord went to the rally. Those within the program, they didn't go to the rally. So here, it's if you want to go to the rally, you're more than welcome. You're encouraged to share how you feel, but you can't push your opinion or what your beliefs are on somebody else. What's real for them needs to be real for you. I might not necessarily agree what you say or what another politician says or anyone says. I might not agree with it, but I won't fight against what you say, but I will fight for your right to say what you want to say. You are entitled to your opinion, and I don't think that I should try and squash you or intimidate you or make you fearful in any way. And when we come to the words racism and neo-Nazi, and those words have been thrown out there, and they've basically lost their meaning. There's no way in the world that I would.
I have to ask you this one. The protests have some neo-Nazis leading on front of it, though. You did march with that. Now, if you don't mind, it's not me accusing you of anything.
That was really funny, actually.
This is not me accusing you of anything.
Yeah.
But I have to ask you this one.
Yeah.
Some people say, well, you're marching with them.
Yeah, but that's the mainstream media. I mean, even you have a choice. You can put your camera on those 8 neo-Nazi fellows that are at the front, or you can put the camera on the 10,000 people behind. And it just so happened we had 8 neo-Nazis at the front. It was the first rally I've ever been to in my life.
Did it ruin all for everybody?
No. The media just focused on making the story. But it's the first rally I've ever been to. I get there on my bike. As soon as I get there, I'm straight up on stage. I'm doing my rally speech. And then when I spoke about that we're not against immigration, you've got these neo-Nazi group, 8 of them, sitting there saying, boo. It's like, really? You know, it's like, they're against immigration. Why would you be against immigration? I mean, it's what makes Australia Australia. People come here to learn our culture, you know what I mean? They love Australia. Even people who've immigrated here love Australia. But you've got 8 neo-Nazis, and then you've got 10, 15,000 Australians, and the media's got to focus on that. And that shows the media has a lack of integrity. Even yourself, if you sit there and you want to put a camera on 8 neo-Nazis and focus on that little story when you've got 15,000 West Australians standing up saying, hey, I mean, seriously? The media controls the narrative. That's why I don't watch mainstream media anymore. It's sort of lost its credibility, I mean.
Last but not least.
It pushes the agenda of the day, so.
But it certainly doesn't make people that attend the rally.
8 neo-Nazis at the front, seriously? Were you there?
I was there. I went to the rally.
You've seen the 8 neo-Nazis at the front?
I did.
And you say 15,000 people are marching with the neo-Nazis? No, I think the neo-Nazis are marching with us because that's the only platform they can get. You know, and the neo-Nazis in white Australia and all that, that's an abomination. It's just not okay.
Last but not least, I have to ask you this one before we finish. To more religious factors.
Yeah.
Life has been a rough journey for you overall, but God has made a difference in your view.
Yeah, it hasn't been a rough journey. I mean, all things work together for good. I mean, it's the trials and the tribulations and the pressures that we face as we live life. At the end of the day, each one of us have got to get up each day, and we've got to do our best to, live the life that we've called us to, or that we've called to live, not just in what we say, but in what we think. And my issues in the last 15 years have just been zoning issues that no one wants to rehab in their backyard. It's anywhere but near me. But I think that we've walked through that now. We have a really good support base. We're spread across 10 different properties. I am unashamedly a Christian man. I love God and I love what God does in my life. I don't push my faith down on anybody else. If you want to know about what I believe, you should see what I believe and how I live my life, that my actions would speak louder than my words. And any negative stuff that comes on my way, or racist or liar or whatever, I mean, if there's truth, it's like a stick-it note. It'll stick. You know what I mean? It's like fly to a fly paper, it'll stick. But I'm really glad to say that no flies can land on this stick-it note, mate. My conscience is clean. You know, I am a man of honesty, integrity, transparency and accountability, and to my best, I'll try and live the life that I know that I should live and walk in truth. And if I do something wrong, and if I do make a mistake, I'll be the first one to stand up and say, I'm sorry.
and you did, if I asked you this one, and you will, last but not least, you will continue in Shalom House as long as you can?
No, until I'll continue in Shalom House until as long as the board likes me here, or until I feel that my life is heading in a different direction. And so it depends. I mean, tomorrow an opportunity could come up where I could go left or right, or I've just got to follow where I feel led. Every day I just get up and try my best to have a clean conscience at the end of the day. And but I just do my best every day.
Thanks for your time today.
I appreciate it, Alvin.
So what is your opinion on comments made by Mr. James?
Can I say there are two parts to this? I think the original comments that he made, which were in the post that he put and which he shared to the Shalom House post, there were some particularly comments in there that caught my attention, and he talked about the fact that the culture overseas involved or accepted and treated as normal the beheading of goats in the street. Now, if that was not a racist comment, I don't know what is, because that clearly was not acceptable. It was stereotyping. It was making light of something that was potentially very, very dangerous. So those comments I found quite offensive, and quite rightly his board also found that those comments should not have been attributed to Shalom House. And the board has to recognize that Shalom House is a separate entity, and that started the whole process around thinking about where does Shalom House stay in regard to Peter Lyndon-James. So he has to recognize, I guess, that Shalom House has a board of its own, it has an entity of its own, and commentary like that, where it talks about the beheading of goats in streets, etc., overseas, that is really about saying we only are interested in dealing with people who come from an Australian culture. Subsequent comments that he made to you in regard to the activities between him and the board, I don't find those particularly offensive. I find them unfortunately based on rhetoric which is wrong. He talks about the huge numbers of migrants coming to the country. The reality is that if you look at the figures, we were at or about 275,000, 300,000 people coming in net overseas migration before COVID. During COVID, that dropped down. Actually, in a couple of years, they dropped down to negative positions. We had net overseas migration of people leaving the country. So we effectively could say for the 2 years of COVID, it was zero. The year after COVID, it went up to 535,000 people because they were making up for the people that had not come through the previous 2 years. That figure of 535 has dropped markedly in the following 2 years. It continues to drop. So for Peter Lyndon-James to now talk about the 500,000 people coming in, 530,000 or 550,000 or whatever the figure was he said, that's talking about a time 2 years ago. The migration numbers have dropped markedly since then. And that 535 was largely made up of a lot of international students who came in because they hadn't been allowed to come here during the COVID period. So it really was a catch-up case of bringing our numbers. Now, the next thing he says is he blames that migration number for the housing crisis. The reality is that those are the people coming to build the houses to get us out of the crisis that was caused by government inaction in creating homes back during the COVID period and post-COVID. It is a reality that where the government should have been producing hundreds of thousands of homes per year during that time, they were doing somewhere in the vicinity of a couple of thousand. So it really was a long way behind. So governments were inactive, and it's that inaction that has led the housing supply to be hugely deficient. So it's not a demand issue, it is a supply issue. So Peter Lyndon-James is wrong when he says it's the migrants that's causing the long queues outside homes. It is the fact that there is no supply of homes. The other reason why there's no supply, in addition to the fact that the government's inaction, is the fact that we don't have tradespeople. We don't have the skills required to build a home. Even now, we know that the time frame for house building is blown out to something in the vicinity of 2.5 to 3 years. That's ridiculous. So we're really at that stage where we now need to quickly get some people who are qualified, who are able to address the supply side of housing so that we don't have the queues outside the homes. Peter uses his example of going with his son to get a rental property. Yes, absolutely there's a queue of people, but that queue is not caused by the migrants. The reduction of the queue will be caused by the migrants because they're the ones who are building the homes. When he talks about the students as being an imposition on our housing market, students make up somewhere less than 3% of the total housing market. They do not form a major demand factor. They generally are people who are coming and sharing houses or taking rooms in other houses. They are not a demand on the housing market in any fashion other than the fact that they're sharing with other people. So they do not represent a big enough demand factor to cause any problems in the housing market. So I think that whilst his commentary to you was not in itself of a racist nature, it was based on complete wrong information, and it is information that is being promulgated by a people with a anti-migration stance. And that's where Peter is now being identified as a person who's anti-migration, because he's using all of the data that is produced by the anti-migrants and not the researchers and the economists in this area.
What do you think the difference is between mass migration or immigration and anti-immigration in this kind of context?
Look, my feeling is that if we were sitting at about 550,000 people per annum coming in, unless there were skilled migrants, that would be getting close to the mass migration level. But we're not. We've come down to, I think the following year after the 500,000, it had dropped down to about 375. And then the following year it's dropped down even further to about 350. So at 350, really all it's doing, so long as that mix of migration is very much leaning towards the skills that we require. And it's been very clear all the years that we've run these programs of migration, it is very clear that governments have one overriding principle when they talk about diversity. They talk about productive diversity. In other words, the people coming in here are going to be productive, whether it's in the building of homes, whether it's in the creation of our health system. Our health system in WA would completely collapse if we stopped migration in that area. Approximately 51% of the nurses here are from overseas. Approximately 41% of the doctors here are from overseas. You take that out of the equation and we have a health system that would impact on every person in this community, and that's what Peter's calling for, a reduction of migration there and mass migration. We are nowhere near mass migration, and economists will give him that figure if he wants to.
Yeah. He also said that he was going to resign in 2026. Since last week, he's actually retracted that statement and said that he's going to continue if the board will support him. What is your opinion on that? Should he resign?
Look, that's something for the board more than for someone as an outside observer. I think that so long as Shalom House is not seeing as projecting his views, then I don't have a problem with that. You know, if he wants to be the CEO, so long as Shalom House doesn't practice some of those things that he was talking about, then I'm comfortable knowing that someone from the culturally and linguistically diverse community who has a drug dependency is able to go there and access the services. So I don't have a problem if he continues. I felt that his offer to resign was a knee-jerk reaction, but it really is going to be up to him if he's comfortable that the board can distance Shalom House from the views of Peter Lyndon-James. I don't think there will be a greater fallout in the services that they offer.